Okay, let's unpack this, that split second, When you see someone familiar, maybe from that conference last year, you remember chatting, maybe even laughing, but their name just gone. That little mental blank spot can be, well, so unbelievably awkward.
Oh, yeah. It's the worst.
Well, that exact kind of cringeworthy scenario is where our deep dive kicks off today. So picture this. Nick runs into Anne again, and then, the dreaded "your name has just slipped my mind" moment.
And what's really fascinating here, I think, is how this incredibly relatable, maybe slightly embarrassing situation,
Yeah.
it becomes this perfect little window, a window into understanding really practical, everyday English.
Exactly. So we're diving into a short snippet of, well, English language learning gold from YouTube. It's episode 2 of the English Learning Podcast. Our main source is the transcript from this video, and honestly, it's just bursting with the kind of English phrases you hear constantly, but maybe wouldn't, find highlighted in a textbook.
And if we kind of connect this to the bigger picture, you'll see this isn't just about memorizing vocab lists. It's really about understanding the subtle ways native speakers navigate those everyday social things, even the slightly uncomfortable ones, and the specific language they choose to, well, keep things smooth.
Right. So our mission today, if you choose to keep listening, and you are so welcome, is to pull out the most valuable language lessons and also to get a feel for the, social intelligence woven into this brief little encounter.
Which raises a really important question, doesn't it? Why are these seemingly simple phrases so crucial for, effective communication? Let's start by maybe taking apart that slightly awkward opening scene.
Okay, yeah. So Nick and Anna, they have this chance meeting. They start with the usual stuff, pleasantries, a bit of reminiscing about the conference. Seems totally normal. Nick says, it was great to meet you last week at the conference.
Standard stuff.
Yeah. Anna agrees. I really enjoyed our conversation about foreign investment. All very standard, wouldn't you say?
Precisely. They're like building a little bridge of shared experience there, right? Establishing a positive connection. But then comes the little shift, the point where things get maybe a tiny bit tense. Nick says, I'm in a bit of a hurry, but here's my card. We should definitely meet up again and continue our discussion.
So far, so good. A polite way to signal he needs to move on, but still keeping the door open.
Exactly. He shows clear intention to reconnect.
But then Anna throws in a very natural question. Sure, you still have my contact details, right? And that's where things get a little shaky. Nick's response. You know what? This is really embarrassing, but your name has just slipped my mind. Can you remind me?
Yeah.
We've all been there, haven't we?
Absolutely. But what's interesting here is Anna's reaction. She doesn't make Nick feel like he's, committed some terrible social crime. Instead, she gives him immediate reassurance. Don't worry about it. It happens to me all the time. I'm terrible with names, too.
That is such a great example of social grace, isn't it?
It makes a potentially awkward moment feel, well, totally normal. This response works because it validates Nick's experience, and it creates this sense of, shared human fallibility. We all forget things.
It really is a masterclass in diffusing awkwardness. And it perfectly sets the stage for our first language takeaway.
Yeah.
The phrase, "in a bit of a hurry."
Right.
Nick uses this as his reason for needing to end the conversation while still, keeping the door open to meeting again.
Exactly. In a bit of a hurry simply means you're short on time or need to move quickly. The video gives us some really good practical examples.
Yeah, like, can you drive faster? I'm in a bit of a hurry. We've all felt that one.
Or, I can't talk right now. I'm in a bit of a hurry. Very direct.
And in a slightly different context, I'm in a bit of a hurry, so I'll check these files later. It's a really versatile little phrase, isn't it?
It is indeed. It's polite. It's widely understood. It's a good way to excuse yourself without needing some, complicated story. You're acknowledging the other person, but clearly stating you're short on time.
Okay, solid. Let's move on to our second language nugget. Contact details.
Yeah.
This comes up naturally when Nick offers his business card, and Anna asks if he still has hers.
Yeah, contact details is pretty self-explanatory, right? It's the information you need to get in touch with someone directly. And as the video highlights, this usually includes things like their name, phone number, email address, sometimes social media handles even.
Right.
It's the basic info for staying connected.
The video points out, and rightly so, that this is exactly the kind of info you'd exchange if you actually, want to be able to call or email someone. Pretty fundamental for networking.
Definitely.
But are there unspoken assumptions about what counts as contact details in different situations? Like, would you expect the home address in a business context? Probably not, right?
That's a really insightful question. Yeah, generally in a professional setting, contact details would mostly mean business-related info, work email, work phone. Sharing a home address would be less common, maybe even a bit unusual, unless there's a specific reason. Socially, it might be a bit more fluid, personal numbers, social media, depending on the relationship.
Interesting distinction. Okay, now for the phrase at the very heart of our opening awkwardness, slip my mind. This is Nick's direct way of admitting he's forgotten Anna's name.
Slip my mind. Yeah, it's a really useful idiom. It communicates that you've forgotten something unintentionally. It just sort of vanished from your memory for a second.
Yeah.
This phrase is particularly useful because it implies it was unintentional, right? It avoids suggesting you didn't think the person or their name was important enough to remember.
Right, it softens it.
Exactly. It softens a potentially kind of offensive situation, suggests a temporary memory blip, not a total failure to recall. The examples in the video really bring its usage to life.
They really do. I'm sorry I forgot to respond to your email. It just slipped my mind.
Yeah.
We've all sent or received that mental note, haven't we?
Guilty.
Or how about, dude, you know what day it is today? Oh, it's your birthday. It completely slipped my mind. That's a slightly more significant slip up there.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it still conveys that sense of unintentional forgetting. It's often perceived as much less offensive than just bluntly saying, I forgot your name. It's a way to save face, really, for both people involved.
Yeah. Good point. Now, the video then moves into what they cleverly call putting it together, which looks at how, individual words and prepositions work together, how they create natural-sounding phrases, especially around location and ability. Let's start with around here, right around the corner and around there.
Okay. What's fascinating here are the subtle yet significant differences in proximity these variations convey. Around here generally indicates something is nearby, in the general vicinity. The example given, is there a bank around here? Perfect illustration. It's a general question about the local area.
Then we have right around the corner, which paints a picture of something being very close, almost immediately next door.
Yeah.
Saying there's a great restaurant right around the corner suggests it's just a very short walk away. Makes it sound super convenient, accessible.
And finally, around there is much more general, less precise. When someone says, Los Angeles is a great city, I used to live around there, it implies somewhere in the broader region of LA, not necessarily right in the city limits itself.
So using right around the corner gives that immediate accessibility feel, maybe even tempting someone to check it out, whereas around there is just vague.
Much more vague.
It's these really nuanced distinctions, isn't it?
Yeah.
They make a huge difference in sounding natural and understanding the implied distance, knowing the specific degree of nearness.
Precisely. It adds a layer of depth and accuracy to your spoken English.
Okay. The other key phrase in this putting it together section is terrible with. Anna uses this to empathize with Nick, saying, I'm terrible with names too.
Yeah, terrible with simply means being very bad at something. The video gives some common, often quite funny examples. You're terrible with numbers. You can't even remember your own telephone number. Ouch.
Yeah.
Or I'm terrible with directions. I'm always getting lost. That's a very relatable one for many people, I think.
Definitely me.
And finally, I'm terrible with faces. I can never remember what people look like.
I have to confess, I definitely fall into the terrible with numbers category myself. Give me words any day. And Erica, one of the hosts in the YouTube video, she openly admits to being terrible with faces. So it seems like a pretty common human thing.
Exactly. It normalizes our imperfections, doesn't it? Allows for connection through these shared vulnerabilities. Saying, I'm terrible with can be a really effective way to build rapport, show a bit of humility.
Good point. Okay, next up is the fluency builder section. And this focuses on that super casual and common greeting Anna uses when she first sees Nick. How's it going?
Ah, yes. How's it going? It is indeed very frequently used, very natural-sounding alternative to the slightly more formal how are you or how are you doing. I mean, those are perfectly correct, but how's it going often carries a more relaxed, informal tone, ideal for casual encounters.
The video hosts really emphasize that point. It just sounds incredibly natural, the kind of thing you'd instinctively say when you bump into someone you know in a relaxed setting. So definitely a valuable addition to your conversational toolkit.
Absolutely. It's a small shift in phrasing, but it can make a significant difference in how natural and comfortable your English sounds in those everyday informal situations.
Right. Finally, the video shares some personal anecdotes that really bring these potentially awkward situations to life. Marco tells a rather funny, if slightly embarrassing, story.
Yeah.
about forgetting a family member's name at a reunion.
Which really just underscores that this isn't just a challenge for language learners, right? It's a universal human experience. We all do it. Marco's need to, discreetly ask another relative for the name. Classic example of navigating a socially tricky spot.
Totally. And Erica offers some incredibly practical, actionable tips for those moments when your mind goes blank on someone's name in a professional setting. Her go-to strategies: politely asking for their business card or asking them to write down their email address, which, of course, usually includes their full name spelled out.
Smart.
That's genuinely useful advice right there.
Yeah, these personal stories really highlight how common these experiences are, and they provide coping mechanisms that go beyond just, knowing the right vocab. It's about using strategies to navigate social awkwardness with a bit of grace and cleverness.
So let's quickly recap those essential takeaways. We've looked at in a bit of a hurry for gracefully excusing yourself, contact details for the crucial information needed to stay in touch.
Yep.
And slip my mind as the gentler way to admit you've forgotten something.
We also explored the subtle distinctions of location with around here, right around the corner, and around there.
Right.
And how to express your weaknesses with terrible with.
And finally, we highlighted that natural, relaxed greeting, how's it going?
Got it.
For you, the learner, mastering these phrases is incredibly valuable for everyday English communication. Seriously. Whether you're traveling, working with international colleagues, or just chatting with English speakers, understanding and confidently using these expressions will help you navigate social interactions more smoothly and avoid those potentially uncomfortable moments.
Definitely. Think about the subtle power of using "it slipped my mind" instead of a more direct, maybe blunt admission of forgetting.
Yeah.
Or the way "right around the corner" creates a more immediate sense of place than just saying "around there." These nuances, they really enrich your communication. They show a deeper, more intuitive understanding of the language.
So true. Maybe take a moment now, reflect on times you found yourself in similar situations. Have you ever been in a bit of a hurry and needed a polite way to end a chat? What's something that you are terrible with? Reflecting on your own experiences can really help these phrases resonate and, stick in your memory.
And as a final thought for you, consider this. What's a phrase in your native language that captures that exact feeling, that something just slipped your mind? How does your language express that momentary blank in memory? It's often really insightful, I think, to see how different languages and cultures approach these universal human experiences through their own unique linguistic lenses.